3 days after Dad's funeral, my stepmother, Victoria, called everyone into the dining room. She smiled calmly as she slid a white envelope across the table. "I think your father would have wanted this settled quickly." Inside was a cashier's check for exactly $100,000 and a stack of legal documents. She pushed a pen toward me. "Just sign. No lawyers, no court, no unnecessary drama." My half-brother Ethan nodded. "It's a fair deal, Claire." Around the table sat my aunts, uncle, and even Dad's accountant. No one questioned the papers. They all waited for me to sign. 3 days earlier, we had buried my father, Thomas Bennett. He had built Bennett Outdoor Supply from a single hardware store into one of the most successful family businesses in Western North Carolina. Dad believed in hard work and honesty above everything else. As I reached for the pen, a memory suddenly came back. Almost a year earlier, Dad had looked unusually serious while we sat on the porch of the lake house. "Claire, if anyone ever asks you to sign estate papers, promise me something." "What is it?" "Never sign anything until David Mercer has read every page." At the time, I thought he was talking about business paperwork, so I promised without giving it much thought. Back in the dining room, I started reading the documents. Everything looked normal until I asked one simple question. "Can I keep a copy?" Victoria's smile disappeared. "I'd rather you didn't. They're only draft documents." Something immediately felt wrong. Dad had always told me, never sign what you can't read twice. I slowly placed the pen back on the table. "I'm sorry. I'm not signing today." The room fell silent. Ethan leaned forward. "You're turning down $100,000? I looked at Victoria. If Dad wanted me to sign, he won't mind if our family attorney reviews everything first. For a split second, the color drained from her face. Then she forced another smile. "Claire, why involve lawyers?" I looked straight into her eyes. "Because Dad told me to." I left Victoria's house without the check or the papers. Before leaving, I had quietly taken photos of every document with my phone. I wasn't sure why I did it. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe Dad's warning had never really left me. Instead of driving home, I went straight to David Mercer's office. He had been Dad's attorney for over 20 years and knew every detail of his business. After offering his condolences, I handed him my phone. "I need you to look at these." David carefully examined each page without saying a word. Nearly 10 minutes passed before he finally looked up. "Victoria asked you to sign these today?" I nodded. "For $100,000. He wasn't surprised. "What did she tell you?" "That Dad wanted peace and lawyers would only delay everything." David sighed. "Thomas never avoided lawyers. He hired me to prevent problems, not create them." He continued reading until he suddenly stopped. "Claire, where's Schedule C?" I frowned. "What's Schedule C?" He pointed to a sentence near the bottom of page 4. "See Schedule C for complete property distribution." I quickly checked every photo again. There was no Schedule C. The page numbers were perfect. Nothing looked missing except the attachment the documents clearly referred to. David leaned back in his chair. This wasn't forgotten. Someone removed it. A chill ran through me. "You're sure?" He nodded immediately. "Absolutely. Thomas was meticulous. If Schedule C is mentioned, it existed." I stared at him. "What was on it?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But someone clearly doesn't want anyone else to see it." Suddenly, the $100,000 check didn't feel generous anymore. It felt like a distraction. David folded his hands. "Did they pressure you to sign today?" I remembered everyone around the table insisting there was no need for copies, no need for lawyers, and no reason to wait. I nodded. They wanted it finished immediately. David looked out the window for a moment before quietly saying, "I don't think they were trying to settle the estate." He turned back to me. "I think they were trying to settle you." Then he reached for the phone. "I'm calling Sarah Collins. She helped prepare your father's estate. If Schedule C disappeared, we're going to find out who removed it." The next morning, David and I met with Sarah Collins, the attorney who had helped Dad prepare his estate. The moment she saw the photos, she noticed the problem. "There should be another attachment," she said. "So you remember Schedule C?" David asked. She nodded. "I drafted the original documents. It definitely existed." My heart started racing. "What was on it?" Sarah shook her head. "I honestly don't remember. It was over a year ago. But I do remember one unusual request Thomas made. David looked at her. What was it? He wanted one section of his estate kept confidential until probate officially began. He told me, if anyone tries to settle my estate too quickly, they'll understand why. The room fell silent. Dad had expected something like this. Before we could say another word, Sarah's assistant knocked on the door. Mrs. Bennett is here. Victoria walked in confidently, but the moment she saw me sitting with both attorneys, her smile faded. I've been trying to reach you, Claire, she said. I brought new copies of the documents so we can clear up yesterday's misunderstanding. She placed another envelope on Sarah's desk. David opened it and compared the papers with the photos on my phone. After a minute, he looked up. Interesting. Victoria crossed her arms. What? The page numbers changed. She frowned. I don't know what you mean. David laid both versions side by side. Yesterday's documents ended on page 5. Today's version ends on page 6. Yet Schedule C is still missing. Sarah leaned forward. Who revised these papers? Victoria answered too quickly. My husband. Sarah didn't blink. Thomas died 3 days ago. Victoria froze before correcting herself. They were already revised. David calmly closed the folder. No, they were altered after his death. For the first time, Victoria looked nervous. She reached for the papers. I think this meeting is over. David gently stopped her. No, I think it's just beginning. Victoria walked out without another word. After the door closed, David looked at me. We need every document connected to your father's estate. Sarah nodded. And his banking records. I frowned. Why the bank records? David smiled slightly. Because people can hide papers, but they rarely hide payments. David requested every financial record connected to Dad's estate. Personal accounts, business records, trust documents, property taxes, and even the rental history of every safe deposit box Dad had ever opened. Sarah warned us it could take weeks. David disagreed. If someone changed the estate, they rushed for a reason. 2 days later, the first records arrived. Most of them were routine until David suddenly stopped at one bank statement. What is it? I asked. He pointed to a single line. Safe deposit box rental. The box had been rented just 13 days before Dad died. I never knew Dad had a safe deposit box, I said. Neither did I, Sarah replied. There was no key, no paperwork, and no mention of it anywhere in the estate files. David immediately called the bank, and that afternoon we met with the branch manager. He opened a file. Mr. Bennett rented box 417. David asked who had access. The manager scanned the documents. Originally, several authorized users were listed. He paused, but 5 days before Mr. Bennett passed away, he changed the authorization. What changed? I asked. He removed everyone. I felt my stomach tighten. Everyone. The manager nodded. Only 2 people were left. He slid the form across the table. The first name was David Mercer. The second was Claire Bennett. Victoria's name had been completely removed. David quietly exhaled. Thomas planned this. The manager wasn't finished. The morning after Mr. Bennett's funeral, someone came here asking to open the box. I already knew who. Victoria. He looked surprised. Yes, but we refused because she was no longer authorized. The room fell silent. Victoria had known the box existed. She had tried to open it before anyone else, which meant she believed something important was inside. David stood. We'd like to access box 417. A few minutes later, the manager returned carrying a small black metal box and placed it on the table. Then he quietly stepped outside. David looked at me. This decision is yours. I stared at the key beside the lock. Dad had protected whatever was inside until his final days. Now it was my turn to discover what he had been trying so hard to keep safe. My hand shook as I unlocked the safe deposit box. Inside, there was no cash or jewelry. Only 3 items. A sealed envelope, a small leather notebook, and a manila folder tied with a blue ribbon. Across the envelope, in Dad's handwriting, were the words, "For Claire, only if someone asks you to sign." Tears filled my eyes. Weeks before he died, Dad had known someone would try to pressure me. David nodded toward the notebook. Let's start with that. Every page was filled with Dad's handwritten notes. meetings, property purchases, and private thoughts. One entry immediately caught our attention. Victoria asked me again to simplify the estate. She keeps insisting Claire doesn't need to know about every property. I refused. A few pages later, another note read, "If anything happens to me, someone will try to settle this quickly. David will understand why Schedule C matters." David looked at me. He wanted us to find this. Then he untied the blue ribbon around the folder. Inside was the missing document, Schedule C. It listed every asset that had disappeared from the papers Victoria wanted me to sign. The lake house, a commercial warehouse, 32% ownership of Bennett Outdoor Supply, several investment accounts. At the bottom was the estimated value, $4,612,840. I stared at the number in disbelief. If I had signed those papers, every one of those assets would have been transferred without me ever knowing they existed. Sarah slowly sat down. "My God, this changes everything." David nodded. "It also explains exactly why someone removed Schedule C." Finally, I picked up Dad's sealed letter and carefully opened it. The first sentence made my heart stop. "Claire, if you're reading this, someone ignore my final wishes." Dad explained that he had created Schedule C because Victoria kept asking one disturbing question. If Claire receives cash, does she really need to know about the properties? That was the moment he realized she was thinking about the estate differently than he was. He ended the letter with one final instruction. If Schedule C disappears, file for full discovery. Every email, every draft, every financial record. The truth will reveal itself. David looked at me and quietly said, "Then that's exactly what we're going to do." David filed a motion for full discovery, and within 2 days, the judge approved it. Every estate draft, financial record, and email connected to Dad's final months had to be turned over. Victoria acted confident. "You're turning this family into a courtroom," she said. David calmly replied, "No, someone else already did." Over the next week, boxes of records filled Sarah's office. Most of the documents were ordinary until one Thursday afternoon, Sarah called us. "I found something." She handed us a printed email. It had been sent by Victoria to a local print shop the morning after Dad died. The subject line read, "Estate Revision." One sentence was highlighted. "Please print only the revised pages. Leave out Schedule C exactly as discussed." The room fell silent. For the first time, we had proof, not suspicion. Then Sarah found another document. It wasn't even sent. It was still sitting in Victoria's draft folder. It read, "If Claire signs immediately, nobody will know the properties existed." I could barely breathe. She hadn't been protecting the family. She had been trying to erase nearly $4.6 million from Dad's estate. David carefully placed both emails into an evidence folder. This will remove her as executor. But then he remembered something from Dad's notebook. On the last pages was a handwritten note. "If they still deny the truth, ask Sarah for envelope 12. Sarah's eyes widened. I completely forgot. She explained that almost 2 years earlier, Dad had left a sealed envelope in her firm's fireproof archive with one instruction. Open it only if the estate ends up in court. 2 days later, we unlocked the archive and found a brown envelope labeled envelope 12. Inside wasn't another letter. It contained a flash drive, a DVD, and a notarized affidavit. Sarah smiled sadly. Thomas always believed people argue with paper, but they rarely argue with someone speaking for themselves. The courtroom hearing was only days away. Whatever was stored on that flash drive, Dad believed it would end the case once and for all. The courtroom was packed. Victoria sat confidently beside her attorney. Ethan sat next to his mother, still believing she had done nothing wrong. David presented the missing Schedule C, the bank records, and the emails proving someone had removed the document after Dad's death. Victoria's attorney immediately objected. "These emails can be misunderstood. My client denies altering the estate." Victoria nodded. "I never removed anything." David didn't argue. Instead, he held up the flash drive from envelope 12. "Your Honor, before Thomas Bennett passed away, he anticipated this exact situation. We'd like permission to play one final piece of evidence." The judge agreed. The courtroom lights dimmed. A screen came to life. Then my father's face appeared. He looked tired, but unmistakably himself. "If you're watching this," he began, "then I'm no longer here, and someone has chosen deception instead of honesty." The courtroom became silent. Then Dad looked straight into the camera. "Victoria, if you're sitting in this courtroom, I already know what you've done." Her face instantly turned pale. "I found the revised drafts. I photographed every version of my estate before locking the originals away. I created Schedule C because I discovered someone was trying to remove important assets after my death." Even Victoria's attorney stopped taking notes. Dad continued, "I loved you, but I couldn't ignore what I discovered. So I left enough evidence that no one, not even a judge, would have to guess who changed my estate." Then he looked directly into the camera one last time. "Claire, if you've reached this point, you kept your promise. I'm proud of you." Tears filled my eyes. Across the courtroom, Ethan was crying too. The judge looked at Victoria. "Mrs. Bennett, do you still maintain these documents were altered before Mr. Bennett's death?" This time, Victoria said nothing. The truth no longer needed proving. Dad had already done it himself. No one spoke. Not the judge. Not the attorneys. Not even Victoria. Dad's recording had done what weeks of arguments never could. It told the truth. Quietly. Clearly. The judge looked down at the evidence. "Mrs. Bennett, did you remove Schedule C from the estate documents after Mr. Bennett's death?" Victoria's attorney whispered for her not to answer. But there was nowhere left to hide. The emails, the bank records, the original documents, and Dad's own video. Finally, Victoria looked up. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I only wanted to protect Ethan." The courtroom remained silent. "I thought Thomas loved Claire more. I was afraid my son would lose everything, so I removed Schedule C. I kept telling myself I'd put it back later. But when Claire refused to sign, I panicked." Ethan slowly stood. His face had gone pale. "You lied to me." Victoria reached toward him. "I was trying to help you." He shook his head. "No, you used me. You made me believe Claire was stealing from us. You made me hate my own sister." For the first time since Dad's funeral, Ethan broke down in tears. He turned to me. "I am sorry, Claire. I should have trusted Dad, and I should have trusted you." Without saying a word, I walked over and hugged him. At that moment, we stopped being enemies. We were simply brother and sister again. The judge finally spoke. "Based on the evidence, Victoria Bennett is removed as executor of the Thomas Bennett estate, effective immediately." He turned to David. "Mr. Mercer, the court appoints you temporary executor until the estate is properly distributed." David nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." The judge continued. "Schedule C is reinstated. The altered agreement is declared legally void, and all estate assets will be distributed according to Thomas Bennett's original instructions." Victoria closed her eyes. She didn't argue. She didn't appeal. She knew the case was over. As everyone prepared to leave, David stopped beside me. "Claire, your father left one final message." He handed me Dad's notebook and pointed to the very last page. There was only one sentence written there, and it explained everything Dad had been trying to protect. I opened Dad's notebook. Every page before it contained business notes, property records, and plans. But the final page held only one sentence. "The greatest inheritance I can leave you is each other." I read it again and realized Dad had never been trying to protect millions of dollars. He had been trying to protect his family. Over the next 3 months, David completed probate exactly as Dad intended. The lake house stayed in the family. The commercial property was divided according to Schedule C, and the company shares were distributed exactly as Dad had planned. There were no hidden fortunes or last-minute surprises. Only justice. Victoria accepted the court's decision. She resigned as executor, cooperated with the investigation, and eventually moved away from Asheville. I never saw her again. A few weeks later, Ethan called me. "I know I don't deserve it, but would you have dinner with me?" For a moment, I remembered every accusation and every argument. Then I remembered Dad's final words. "The greatest inheritance I can leave you is each other." I smiled. Yeah, I think Dad would have wanted that. A week later, we met at the lake house. We didn't talk about court or money. We talked about Dad, the man who coached Ethan's Little League games, taught me how to fish, and somehow managed to burn pancakes every Saturday while insisting they tasted better that way. For the first time since his funeral, we laughed together. Before leaving, Ethan handed me the same $100,000 cashier's check. "I found it in Mom's desk," he said. "You should keep it." I looked at the check, then quietly shook my head. "No, Dad never meant this to become our inheritance." 6 months later, we donated the entire amount. Half went to the hospice that cared for Dad in his final weeks. The other half funded scholarships for students studying small business management, the same dream Dad had started with 40 years earlier. Now, every year on Dad's birthday, Ethan and I meet at the lake house. Not to discuss money, not to discuss property, just to remember the man who taught us that truth outlives lies, and that the greatest inheritance isn't wealth, it's family.